I zoomed you in closer so we can get a good look at the eyebrows. Now my brows have what I would consider a natural arch to them. Real quick, I do want to talk about eyebrow growth because it's something that I've noticed ever since I've been using this one particular product that causes my eyebrows to grow, the actual hair grow, I feel, to the point where I need to pluck it or look every single day. Now I've been using this product from Alba Botanica. It's the Un-Petroleum jelly. I use it on my actual eyelids because depending on the time of the season, my eyelids would get almost like it has eczema on it. It'd be dry, it's flaky, and it was difficult to put eyeshadow on. So one day, just out of the blue, and it was in the morning, I said, let me go ahead and start putting the jelly on my actual eyelid. Some of the best discoveries are done through an accident. 2 pinky fingers, and I would just go like this, and then I would just rub it into my brows. Really, I wasn't even trying to condition my brows. It was just, let me make sure I have it spread all the way on my eyelid because the skin was getting flaky up there. Then I noticed every time I would look in the mirror after that, my hair, it's like overnight. I look in the mirror, I'm like, my goodness, I know I just plucked the other day. What's going on here? So it wasn't until I went to my brow lady and she actually told me, what is the stuff that you're using? Because she could see in little areas that were sparse, there was like no hair there. She was like, this hair is growing fast. What are you using? So I showed her the petroleum jelly and she said, I think this is what it is because the first ingredient is castor oil. And she says, I think your body, your skin, it likes it and it's growing the hair. In your eyebrows, it's growing it, and I mean it's growing it quick. So if you're having experiences where you're like, I just can't get my brow hair to grow, try the jelly. You never know. It might help you. Now I want to kind of go back to a brow shape. If you're kind of like, well, how do I know what shape is my brow? You can actually see it. And what I mean by that is if you really kind of looked in the mirror, I'm just going to take a spoolie, push all your hairs all the way up. We all have a skeleton underneath our layer of skin, and you can kind of see when you start really kind of pushing in, and even maybe just use your finger, kind of push it and kind of see where the skull is for your actual eye socket in your brow, and you can kind of see it. Now if your brow hair, if your eyebrows have no shape to them, so let's just say you're brand new and you're like, I can't even see the shape, this is what I recommend you do. I recommend you get some stencils. ABH templates, those were the first ones I've used. It was a way for me to kind of replicate what my brow lady was doing, but also do it at home. I was in Ulta one day and I came across these. These are from the brand Eyelure London. Now they also have a pack just like ABH does. Now what I like to do is, and you can just take a brush, something so you can have as a point of reference. What I like to do is go by my tear duct. We all have different anatomy. Our face shapes are all different. So you need to kind of have some point of reference to look by. And that's actually how I teach because again, we're all different. So I like to go by my tear duct. Where my tear duct starts right here, if I go up, it's exactly where my brow starts. If I go down from my tear duct, it actually, and keep, if you're using something as a point of reference, if you keep the handle straight, it ends right here on like the end of your nostril. So I just say go by the tear duct. That will give me a good point of reference where the front of my brow needs to be. So again, that's my right side. If I went by my left side, again, going by my tear duct and go up, it goes right where the start of my brow goes. And then if I hold my point of reference like straight, it actually goes a little bit further up my nostrils than it does on my right side. So I always say go by do each eye. Don't just go, okay, I have it here, so it must be around this area. Actually go by each eye, because sometimes both eyes are not symmetrical and you need to know exactly where to go. Now, a good ending point for the actual tail of your eyebrow, I like to go by the end of my eyelid. So if you want to kind of just take, again, your point of reference and start gently poking, don't go hard, just kind of, kind of rub right here. You'll see where it ends, where the end of your eyelid would end. Now, if you need to take a look and kind of find another focal point, so for me, it would be right at the end of my eye, kind of be where I would draw a wing, an eyeliner wing right here, and then just go out. I took my point of reference and placed it right here. The end of my tail would be right here. Next is going to be the actual fill-in part. So again, we're working from a stencil, and again, we're working from the fact is you don't have a brow at all. So I have actually one pencil that I use, and I've been using this forever. This is from Wet n Wild. It's their Megalast retractable eyeliner. What I like about this pencil is it is creamy, but it's also pretty sturdy. So what I like to do, it's a twist up pencil. It gets pretty thin as far as when I'm filling in on the stencil, and it's color black brown. It's a shade that I can actually see on my hair, my brow hair. So even though my brow hairs are so dark, like black, I can still see beyond with this color, and I know exactly where to pluck. Once you get to that point, you have used your pencil or whatever form of product to draw your outline, and you're going to take your tweezers next. Now, just go slow, okay? Go slow, take your time. So don't do this step when you don't have a lot of time. Just go slow. If you need to go in a magnifying mirror or just have a mirror really kind of close up so that you can see, this is what I do. I have my tweezers, and this is actually from Sephora. This is just Sephora's Rubis Switzerland. These tweezers are fabulous because they actually can pull out absolutely any hair, no matter how big or how tiny it is. Even if I can see it underneath the skin, I just kind of move the skin a little bit. It doesn't hurt. Touch the hair and just pull it right out. So if you're new, plucking your eyebrows, I feel doesn't hurt. Now I know it's easy for me to say because I've been feeling it for quite some time, but I really don't think it hurts. I think it hurts is because you might take the tweezers and kind of go in real quick and just like yank it out. I think that's where you can actually kind of feel it kind of tugging at the root. Don't do that. So what I do is when I see the hair or I need to pluck outside the outline, I just grab the hair, and I barely have to touch it, and then barely pull it. You'll see, you'll feel it. It just slides right out of the skin. So don't grab and yank. Just go slow and pull it out. Be gentle with it, and it will be gentle with you. You figured out where your brow is, your shape. You have a stencil or some form of an outline. You've plucked outside the outline. You've removed it. You have fresh brows, and you're ready to go. First, I want to talk about the actual tools. Brow brush. I love me a brow brush. Now, there's tons of brow brushes on the market. Some are straight cut, some are slanted, some have spoolies on the end, some don't. I recommend just finding the one that you like the best, because you'll probably get tired of me saying it. We're all different. We are. Some of us have more brow hairs than others. Some of us have no brows. So you actually have to draw one on. So you're going to need to find a brush that is going to work for you. Maybe your brush is very thin, meaning it's not so densely packed. So it's very thin. The bristles are, just very, almost like to a point where it's see-through, because you need to kind of, draw on a brow. You might have a lot more brow hair like I do, and you don't need something so thin. You might want something a little bit more densely packed. So in my case, that's the brushes that I tend to gravitate towards. My brushes, and I have them that have just all packed together, cut at the top. But the ones I reach for the most are densely packed, they're thicker, and they have a cut at the end. They have a slant tip. So it's thicker at the top and then it goes down. This is my Holy Grail brow brush. It is the brow brush that I probably should have purchased a good 10 of them at the time. I got it from Sephora, you know, on clearance. I had no idea that this brow brush was going to be that good for me. Because it's funny is it didn't even have good reviews, but that didn't stop me. I need to try it out myself. And it's the brow filler, and it just says number 100 from Sephora. This brush, put it this way, if I can't find something that's like it again, I'm gonna have to have it made. It's that good. Again, coming from somebody that has a lot of brow hairs, the way this picks up whatever product I need it to pick up, and the way it places it, it's superb in my opinion. So once you have found your Holy Grail brush, or we're going to continue on that quest to find our Holy Grail brush, you are looking at all the different brow products that are out there. There's pencils, there's powders, there's pomades, so the DipBrow. I am going to show you first my oldest brow product that I've used, and I still use it to this day. It has lasted this long. It is the ABH, I'm just going to shorten, from Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's their Brow Express. Now this is what the old Brow Express used to look like. The new one I think is definitely an upgrade. I'm going to scrape every bit out, is this brow wax. Their brow wax is really good. This is actually a brow bone highlight. It's a beautiful like champagne gold shade, so I just use it here and there. And of course I have the two brow powders down here. I focus the lightest shade up at the top, so the front of the brow. Then once you start getting to the arch all the way down to the tail is when I switch and I use the darkest shade. Now I also have the brow powder in its compact form. And this is the Brow Powder Duo in dark brown. I picked this one up so I don't have to take this big case with me, and I could just take the smaller one. And see, the shades are exactly the same. So this is now my travel version. Next would be eyebrow pencils. I prefer the Brow Wiz. It gets exactly where it needs to go on my brow, and I can create those brush-like hair strokes. Next would be the DipBrow, again by ABH. It tends to last the longest on me, or it did until a new product kind of came in, and we'll get to that. Now let's move on to brow gel. Now my brow hair is actually curly. They will curl up after all that styling, shaping, fill-in. At the end, they still have a mind of their own. It will start to curl up, usually around the tail and sometimes near the arch, but they do curl up. So I have to use some form of a brow wax to kind of lay them down, or I have to use a brow gel. Now when it comes to brow gels, I am picky because, I mean, the hairs, they're just going to curl right back up again, and no, I don't like that. So I've tried quite a few. And what they tend to do, and this is just my experience, is they start to flake. So throughout the day, I'll see little white hairs in my brow hairs, or my brow hairs get really like crunchy, like I can hear it. Like if I touch them, they're crunchy. So I have white flakes, or they're crunchy and stiff and hard. I'm just like, no. Now I do have one from the drugstore that I like that tends to lay my brow hairs flat. It is from L'Oreal. It is their Brow Stylist Plumper. Comb it through, holds it in place. The one before I found the plumper, the one I would just pretty much have always been using, is the ABH. And this is their clear brow gel. I do admit this one is my favorite. This one holds my hair in place all day. I don't have to worry about it. Doesn't matter how early in the morning I do them, all day long. Until I wash my face, the hairs are in place. So this one is the one I personally prefer to use. Before I get into the two new products that have pretty much said sayonara to this and this, Well, not completely. I still obviously will use these, but believe me, I'm reaching for those two new products. I'm gonna make you wait a little bit. Don't you hate that? I want to talk last is the actual concealer. My preference is I prefer concealers that are in a creamier, like a emollient type of texture. And these tend to be in like a pot, or they can be in a compact. Like this one is 2-in-1. I like to use those type of concealers because I can use the brush and pinpoint the concealer and clean it up exactly where I need to do it. Now a wand concealer, will do the trick as well, but when you're using a concealer that is like more of a liquidy type of concealer, you run the risk of it getting all up into your hair. One false move and it's done. So when you're working with a cream type of concealer, something with some slip to it, you can get right where you need it to be. So those are the concealers that I prefer to use. So it's just going to be your own personal preference. Now I can talk about the two new items that I have been obsessing over. So first, let's start off with what I have been using that is just neck and neck as far as with the DipBrow. This is from Wonderbrow, and I did purchase this myself. I have it in the shade Jet Black. This wand, it's actually the brush, excuse me. This brush, if you try to paint it on with the brush, it looks harsh as can be. So what I do is I actually just take my brush and I put the product on the brush, and then I go in and it's so much natural looking. It's perfect. It also lasts all day long. We're talking all day long and the next day if I never even washed my brows, because I have to take remover, and it's got to be some oil-based remover to get this off. This does not come off, and I like that. It also kind of holds my hairs down so they're not so curly. It doesn't do it completely, but it kind of almost like relaxes it, and I love that. Now, the brow gel that has replaced all my brow gels. Been using it around the same time. Actually, I remember I got them around the same time as the Wonderbrow. Is the brow gel I picked from Octoly, and it's from Lancôme. Go figure. Okay. Anytime Lancôme is in my Octoly store, if it's something I want to try out, I will pick it. And they did send this to me. So I didn't have to pay for it. It was given to me complimentary. So I get it, and it's actually much smaller than my ABH one. This clear does exactly what I need to do. I comb it through last step. And those hairs are relaxed. Like my hair is relaxed. It's as if I took it's like brow gel, creamy crack, relaxed brow. If you have curly brows, just go through, and them hairs are laid flat. No crunchiness, no crunchy sounds, no white flakes, nothing all day long until I have to wash my face. My hairs are laid flat. Quite impressive indeed. So I went ahead and did my right brow off camera. I'm going to show you on the left pretty much what I do. And I thought I would go ahead and use the DipBrow. And the reason why I want to use the DipBrow is I feel it's the product that gets people the most confused. My DipBrow almost kind of has like a spring to it, like a putty spring. So what I do is I actually go in and I pick it up like that. Now I'm going to pick up a lot, but that's okay because I'm going to brush some off. So just pick some up. So just go straight in. Don't swirl. Don't try to be all fancy. Just press into the product. Now, next is the cap. I use the cap as my mixing plate. Go in on the cap and just start going back and forth, which takes off the excess, but also start to swirl. This warms up the dip. Back and forth. That warmed up the product. It warms up the dip. It gets it almost to like a creamier consistency, makes it a lot more, it makes it a lot easier to work with versus going straight into the product and straight onto your brow hairs. So if you're like, oh goodness, I can't deal with the dip, like Roger Rabbit, oh my God, it's dip. Warm it up on the cap first, go back and forth, and you're ready to go. So I'm going to use the stencil just so that you can get an idea of what I mean as far as placement and filling it in. And what I do with my brush is I start to brush up, putting the product right into the brow hairs. So brush up, and the template is going to create that outline for you. And then I start to brush down. And I'm moving the brush like this to lay that product down. Get into that line. Give me an outline that I can work with. So then you peel it away and there's your brow. So now comes where I would just start to basically shape it the way and precise it, make it precise the way I want it to. So I see it's pretty like open right here. So with some extra dip that's on the actual brush, I can start going in with it and just make those brush-like strokes going up and kind of pulling it down. Now with this stencil, the Eyelure, it actually is much longer than my eye shape, and I know that already. So even though it's kind of hanging right here, this is the part that I have to clean up with a smaller eyebrow brush, but I'll show you at the end. So keep going in like this, just kind of filling in those areas. And then I go to the front and kind of fill that in as well. That's all. That's all I use the dip for, because I know it's going to primarily do majority of the work for me, and it creates that shape, and you know, it gives me a natural look. To me, it gives me a natural look. Now I pull in my Brow Wiz, and this is just so I can really get in there and kind of get into those areas that the dip brow missed, but I really just kind of want to make those sharper lines. So this is just going to vary on how you like your brow to look. So I go back into the brow hairs, I go underneath here. Now the hairs are kind of, because they're curly, they're already starting to kind of curl right here, but that's what the brow gel is going to do. It's going to lay it flat. I fill in this area right here where there's a little bit of hair growth that needs to come back. I haven't plucked there. I'm waiting for that to grow back on its own. And then right here on the arch, I just fill that in a little bit on the top, and then I go down to the tail. Now, I turn it around because my brow hair right here is extremely, I mean, just so curly right here. Now comes the concealer part. I'm just going to take my pot concealer here by MAC. I'm going to take my NYX brush. I'm just going to dip. I just usually dip right inside, and then I just kind of work on the corners here to kind of take off anything that's excess. And I already know that the tail is going to be a little bit longer because of the stencil. So you'll just get used to that if you start to use the outline. So I just kind of clean it up right here. I'm just going to remove the excess tail so that it actually ends where it needs to end. Then here's where you can use the concealer to clean up anything. So if you need to go up into with the concealer, see how the thicker concealer, the emollient, see how using a cream concealer you can really kind of get up there and be precise. Let's say you wanted to go on the top brow. See how it just kind of smooths it all out. I also use a concealer that is very close to my own skin tone. I don't like it much lighter. That's just my preference. Again, just trying to keep it as natural as possible, but still precise. That's my look, and that's what I like to teach is, you know, a little bit of natural with a little bit of edge to it. But I don't know, I feel it's actually kind of hard to explain, but I know, it's in my head. Now for the brow gel. Believe me, this is one of my favorite parts, to lay the hair down. And what I like to do is start from the actual arch, and then I go down. And then I leave the front for last. And that's because the hair is curlier all the way down here. So I want these hairs to get the most product. So you'll just do whatever you feel, you know, you want to do. I don't press hard. That's another thing. I don't press so hard where it's all goopy, the gel, and then the gel starts to mix in with whatever your product is, and then you've just kind of ruined what you've done. So I'm barely touching the hair, but the gel, this brush gets the gel where it needs to be without even barely touching it. So I'm just going to go again from the middle portion, so the arch. Can you see the white? Can you see the color? It starts to dry immediately down to clear. And the hairs, I mean, are just, it's laying flat. Now I feel a coolness, like a wet sensation, because that's the brow gel. But it goes away because it's drying. And then again, I just go up to the front, comb it through, and those hairs are relaxed. And that's it. That's how I pluck my brows, the products I use, how I maintain it, how I grow the brow hairs, and of course, my ride or die products, and then the 2 new ones that are just incredible. I'm going to definitely continue to use those. Do hope this video has been helpful for you. Back to basics, number 3, all about the eyebrows. I do not know what number 4 will be. I have to pick. It will either be bronzer or highlight. It'll be one of those 2, but stay tuned. Thank you very much for stopping by and watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day or evening. Please remember to like and subscribe on your way out. And as always, I'm going to see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.